Good evening, boys and girls. It's Wednesday night. I'm Bud. It's TNT's Off the Rail. It's 7 o'clock-ish. Sorry, I'm a minute or two behind. I'm by myself for a second. Kaylee's going to catch up with you shortly. She is doing that pesky job thing, and I'm multitasking right now. You could help me out by making sure you hit the like and subscribe, like and follow, and click on the bell, turning the live notifications on YouTube. And make sure you do the live notification stuff on Facebook. And make sure you're doing it on both. And, make sure you're sharing all the links and watching stuff everywhere and helping do all that stuff. If you're on Facebook, start a watch party. Share the YouTube link for your other friends and stuff like that. And if I post to your group twice, I'm sorry, because I get lost when I'm doing this. And sometimes I accidentally do to the same group twice, and I apologize if I do. Be a part of the conversation. Jump down here in the chat box so I don't have to look at. We're gonna get this going here real quick. It's not working. There it is. Larry, how you doing? I did, and I got a little behind, and I don't have the video already. I'm halfway through it. I'm gonna put it up, but I'm going to talk about that because I had an absolute blast. For those of you guys that might have missed it, I went out and I played in 2 different tournaments. Took Mom on TNT and some friends and went road tripping a little bit and played. We went to Cardwell's and played some 8-ball on Friday night, and then Saturday we went out to Savannah to that awesome place called TNT's Roundhouse in Savannah, Illinois, and played in a little Scotch doubles tournament. It was a bunch of fun. There's a bunch of really cool pictures in the Off the Rail group. You can go check that out on the TNT page as well. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I do everything I need to do, and I've been slacking on the multitasking. And again, if I share multiple times to your group, I'm sorry. I get distracted because I'm trying to do 2 things at once. So I apologize. I want to hear about your awesome Facebook groups too, by the way. There's so many cool Facebook groups out here to find games and players and queue makers and just all that stuff, and it's so cool. So if you got a cool one you want to talk about and one that you hang out and like, and you might like to let people know about, just holler at me, put it in the chat box or swing by the group, something like that. Let me know what's going on. We'll talk about it. I love sharing these things. Shout out to Dunsky Dungeon for the recent invite, by the way. Some really cool stuff they do over there. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. Colin Brandt at QC Billiards page. I just wanted to give him Billiards Network. That's the official name of the QC Billiards Network group. He does a wicked good job over there. If you're not go check. If you're not a part of it, and if you're looking for information, Quad City. Sorry, I'm trying to move my chair. It's not working. If you're looking for some Quad Cities action, oh, look, Miss Kaylee's calling us. Well, I don't know why I can't hear her. It's a little disturbing, but let's see if we can. Can you hear me? All right, you do your thing. Nobody else can hear you. I'm talking to you, and nobody can hear me. I hear you right now, so you let me know. Are you good? All right, sorry guys. You guys can't hear her. I'm talking to Kaylee. She's on the phone getting ready to do her thing. Well, I'm going to take a quick second, real quick, while I get her all situated, and we're going to show some love, and I'll be right back. You guys hang tight. You guys can't even hear me. I'm sorry. I'm suffering all kinds of technical difficulties right now. You guys, I'm sitting there babbling, and you guys couldn't hear me or anything. All right. Kaylee's working on. Oh, I'm all discombobulated right now. Kaylee's working on getting herself situated. We're gonna come back and we'll get Kaylee going here in just a second. Where is that button? All right. Question of the night: is the show live? It is very, very live. So when you hear me asking Kaylee if she's ready, just mind your business, and I'll take care of it. So we got a good show coming up. By the way, sorry. We're gonna be talking to Steve Ernst. I'm trying to get convoluted and I got one eye going one way. We're gonna talk to Steve Ernst. Can you turn it sideways or no? Or did you get it propped that way? There you go, kiddo. There you go. There you go. All right. Are you good? Sorry. All right. There we go. We got Kaylee. We're gonna bring her in. There she goes. I keep pushing all the wrong.
I have
Kaylee.
late today. I just walked out, so.
There she is. She's a trooper. She is hiding out in her car, and we're gonna do this thing. So, what's up, kiddo?
A long day, long week.
I bet. So,
What day is it?
I don't even know. I think it's only the middle of the week, so
I think so too.
it's been one of those. We're gonna talk to Steve Ernst here in 5 or 10 minutes. We're gonna add him to the call and talk to him a little bit about some Fargo rate stuff. Get some answers right from the source, right?
Yes.
Hey, I was just telling people about my weird little weekend. I went and played in a couple tournaments and went out and
I saw that you played in 2 tournaments
I
this weekend,
did.
didn't you?
Isn't that crazy?
That's exciting.
I'm gonna have to take like 2 years off
I
now.
played in none.
And you played
I
in
played in none.
Wow. I didn't do very good at all. So I mean, I 2-and out in both of them. So yeah, it is what it is, you know. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. The place is so cool. It was really fun to be back in the area. The wife and I used to live.
Where did you go?
We went to Savannah. We went to TNT's Roundhouse and played in a Scotch doubles tournament. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So if you think he's ready, well, we can just hit Steve up and get going real quick. And
Okay.
do you want to add him, or you want me to?
Yeah, I can try.
All right,
here.
you go
Okay.
ahead. All right. So we're gonna try to get with Steve Ernst. Steve, again, for those of you who might not know, he's with Fargo Rate. They started it together, correct?
I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we're gonna find out in just a minute.
Yeah, we got to see a lot of really cool people. We had a lot of fun, a lot of familiar faces out there around house. Yes, Mama TNT's in the group. She took a bunch of really cool pictures. I got some video up, and I meant to have a highlight video for you guys from it tonight. And I didn't get it done. So as soon as I do finish it, I'll post it up on the Facebook page, and then next week I should have it ready and play it. It was a lot of fun. Great place, great people, a lot of really nice people. They were very, very cool. Took really good care of us. Served us some food. Again, lots of fun. It was a lot of fun. There he is.
There he is. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Hey, Steve. How you
How are
doing?
you doing?
I am good. How are you two?
Good.
All right.
Everybody's all settled in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Steve. I've got a bunch of questions, and I know there's going to be quite a few other people that have some questions too. So I'm gonna let Kaylee start because I know she's got a bunch. Well, she doesn't have a bunch, but
okay, I have to take care of a tech issue on my side here real quick.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Okay, there, much better. I had 8 conversations coming at me at the same time. All better now.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for coming on. We had Colby and Reed on from Salado about a month ago, actually. Yep. And so we've been promoting Fargo and Salado, and there's been some misconceptions, maybe. And so we just thought we'd go right to the source, and that maybe you could explain a few things for us, and if there was any questions, maybe answer those.
Yeah, absolutely. To the question that came up earlier, yes, Mike Page and I both started. We're the co-founders of Fargo, right?
And how long ago did it start?
So we started collecting data about 2011, 2012, and we had enough that we could go kind of public with what we had in 2015 is when we kind of were Fargo rate.
So what data is in the system?
Oh, all
Well,
kinds of stuff.
good
I
job,
was,
Kaylee. We don't have to do anything the rest of the night.
I had actually just pulled a report last night as I was kind of getting ready for this podcast to make sure I had the most current numbers. And last month we brought in about 750,000 matches of data. That was last month.
Wow.
So we're on pace to do about 1 million this month, and it's just kind of growing at that rate. So it's everything.
And that's international, right?
It is. It's predominantly at this point United States, but we do a whole bunch of international stuff as well. European, Southeast Asia. Yeah.
And I see that you guys break it down with a bunch of great different charts and stuff like that. So when you talk with the international side, is that kind of standalone then, like data wise, or I mean, is everybody's Fargo like it said? Is it still everybody still no matter where?
So yeah, let me. I can actually share something on my screen here, if it'll be big enough for your viewers.
Oh yeah.
Pull this up here quick.
I have to put my phone in. I'm sorry. Normally I'm not on my phone, but
No, you're okay. He's looking for information. I'm checking
I've got it.
I'm checking out the cool stuff in his room and everything. Oh, there she goes.
Yeah, I am working from home today. So
there you go.
I'm working from the car.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Kids are on summer break, so.
Oh yeah.
Bad, I guess. Yeah. Okay, can you see that big mess of stuff there?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is an image I generated a little bit earlier this year that is all of our data. Oh. So if I can zoom in on this thing a little bit, every one of these little dots is a player in our system. The yellow dots are females, the blue dots are males. And then all of the crazy lines on here are all of the matches that they've played against each other.
Holy.
So the closer the dots are together, the more they've played each other. So you can see it forms kind of these natural clumps of people. And this clump that floats over here to the left is Sweden, Norway, kind of the Scandinavian countries, all kind of grouped together. But we have this big giant blob in the middle here, and these are predominantly US players that all kind of play each other. And then some of these blobs that differ, this is the Texas area down here, Texas, Oklahoma area. We have a ton of players in there. So what to kind of answer your question, everybody is grouped together into this one big blob, and based on who they play. So these European players that have played up here are, they have, sometimes it's pro level players, sometimes it's players who may come over and play in one of the, whether it's like DCA Nationals, one of the CSI events, or one of the US Pro Series events, or pros that play that are from, say, if Scott Frost goes and plays someplace, now Arizona's kind of tied into like the European players as well through those connections.
I like how it literally it demonstrates how Fargo strings everybody together, but yet, yeah, that's
so this is what allows us, like one of the questions that we get all the time as well, Fargo rates sounds great, but how can you rate an area that's maybe lower level players or a small community that doesn't have a lot of high level players to someplace that does, right? Like has a big pool of players like New York or Arizona or California.
That's one of our main misconceptions around here, Steve, is because with all ratings, you go from even our smaller area to Peoria, Illinois, and there's a big difference in ratings. So we've always kind of known that and dealt with that, but people think that about Fargo too, and that's the main thing I want you to explain.
Well, yeah, because there's that. Oh, well, your 600 is totally different than our 600. And I wish people could understand, I guess, what they're trying to say.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the reason that I shared this image here, because there's a couple there's a couple spots on this image that illustrate this, even though it's just dots and lines that illustrate this concept. So there's a case where your 600 is different than someone's 600, but it is the smallest of cases. And it's this little tiny group. Let's see if I can zoom in.
Okay.
Way down here on the, can you see it? That
Oh,
little,
yeah.
it's hard to
There,
get to,
yeah, there she
but it's
is.
this little tiny group of players down here hasn't played anybody else. They've
Ah,
only played each other. So if you're in a small town, or say it's a group of guys
oh,
that are a retirement community or something like that, that only play each other,
I do see the
they're
Peoria sign.
they're not what we call tethered or coupled into the larger this is
Huh.
mathematically called a graph.
Right.
And if they're not tied into the graph, then we can't place them accurately relative to everyone else. So we have math that we run, or code that we run every night that looks for these, we call them islands. And every once in a while, an island will pop up, like a new league will start reporting data to us or something like that. And no one has went and played in a tournament yet from that league. And there's some things that we can do to kind of artificially tether them in until it takes care of itself. Somebody actually does go and play somewhere else.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's the first part of the problem is, or the when the misconception arises that says our 600s, are way stronger than your 600 or something like that. And so that's the first thing that can happen, right? Is that little group of players is disconnected from the rest of the world. And the math that Mike and I developed at Fargo Rate is specifically designed that when someone does play, we can now rate that entire group correctly, not just the one player that went and played, but everyone in that area is now reevaluated.
That's another thing, is because we do have a few players, that maybe have snuck under the radar so far and not got a Fargo. But I believe that, just if a few of us have played outside of our area, then it means we all have now, according to Fargo system, right?
Yes. Yep. So the second version of that question that we get is, okay, well, some of our players do go and play in tournaments, but only the best ones. The rest of our league is very low level, and their ratings must be lower because they, even our better players' ratings must be lower because they're only playing lower level players in league or something like that. And this one comes up all the time, like all the time. And it's really easy to kind of fall into the trap of thinking that until you think like really high level play and really low level play. So think of Shane Van Boning, for example, one of our higher rated players in our system. So Shane's currently around an 830. And if so the way that this argument would go is if Shane came to your league and just played in your league for a couple years, he would no longer be an 830 anymore. His rating would come down because he's playing lower rated players. That's the way this argument would go, right? If taken to its like ultimate conclusion.
Right.
And that's just not true. So what would happen, and this gets a lot easier when I can draw on a whiteboard or a piece of paper when I do this, but I'll do my best hand waving here. So in Fargo ratings, we have, our numbers mean some very specific things. And 100-point difference in Fargo ratings means the higher rated player is twice as good. And we mean a very specific thing by that. Let's say that they were doing a race to 4 and the two players were 100 points apart. We expect the higher rated player to win, right, with 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we expect the lower rated player, who's 100 points lower, to get 2, half as many, right? That's that twice as good thing. If players are 200 points apart, now they're 4 times as good. And if they're 300 points apart, they're 8 times as good. So what that means is Shane is an 830. I'm a 530, kind of a dead average player. Shane is 300 points ahead of me. He's 8 times as good as I am. Okay. When I played him, or for example, if I play him in a race to 9, the expectation is I win maybe 1 game. like 1.3 is the expectation. So when Shane comes to our area and he plays me, a low-level player, and beats me 9-1, that's what an 830 is supposed to do. It
Right.
doesn't matter that he played a lower-rated player and completely crushed me to dust. That's what he's supposed to do. And as long as he keeps doing that, he's an 830.
Right.
As long as he's winning the games at the rate of an 830. So when you have a higher-rated player who's in a pool of lower-rated players and he beats them, like if say he's a shortstop type player who's a 675 or 680, something like that, and he's beating them as a 680 would, he's a 680. If he's not, then he's not. Right? Is kind of how it goes.
Now,
And
that brings me to another question: is if he's now, what if he wanted to bring his Fargo down? Could he go play in that lower level league and, or it doesn't matter, I guess, where he would play. Sandbagging is the question.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna bring up one additional thing here because this is like the second most common.
I
question.
think I'm wondering. This question, I know this question comes up to you guys a lot, and I think I've heard a couple of different ways where you guys have answered this, and I'm curious.
Yeah, thank you, by the way, for your informational YouTube videos. They were very
Oh
helpful.
yeah. I've been, yeah, I love the way Fargo works. Like I say, it's because I use InGen to report my stuff to Fargo, and it uses the same basic, the basic ELO principle, which is real basic version of the Fargo, and
yeah, it's actually quite a bit different than what we do.
Right. Oh yeah, like just.
Yeah, in ELO, only the two players involved in that particular match change, and with us, everyone changes. We've gained more information about how everybody plays with every single match that's added in.
Right.
It may be more meaningful for some players than other players, but
yeah, that's why.
And how often do you said those update daily, right?
Daily. Yep.
Daily.
Okay, you can see my little drawing screen here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a really quick picture. Okay, so when we talk about Fargo ratings, there are actually three things that we talk about. The first, or anytime you see someone's Fargo rating, there's actually three little numbers that should be there. There's the rating itself, 680, 320, whatever you are. There's the robustness, and the robustness is a crazy dumb word for how many games of information do we have on you. And these aren't matches, these are individual racks. So how many racks of information do we have? That's robustness. And then a timestamp. So to say someone's a 380, kind of meaningless without saying they're a 380 today, or they were a 380 at the beginning of the year, or their high for the last 2 years was a 380. If you just say a 380, that's generalizing quite a bit. So whenever we put out a Fargo rating, we always attach a timestamp to it so you know they were a 380 on this day. So the robustness number is what I want to talk about here because it's actually really important. So if we draw out a little graph like this and we draw a bell curve on here, when we issue a Fargo rating, it is, we're never like 100% sure exactly what you are because some days you're capable of performing a little better and some days a little bit worse. So we have to find that middle ground. Like you are most likely here. So that most likeliness I represent with this bell curve, and we have this spot, the average, right down the middle, and we say someone is a 430. That's the average, but they can be a little bit this way, they can be a little bit this way, but more often than not, 60 some percent of the time, I think it's 66 or 68, whatever it is, they're going to be in roughly what we call one standard deviation from there. Sometimes, as players are kind of really new and we don't have a ton of information on them yet, they may perform 2 standard deviations away. But almost never do they perform 3 standard deviations away, except for sandbaggers. They will, and we can see it in the data and it jumps out like a sore thumb that you will see players who go and play in a tournament or they start playing league and all their data lights up down here. 3, 4, 5 standard deviations below where they typically play. We have systems that run every day, analyzing data that comes called our Guardian system that's constantly looking for this stuff. We don't catch, there aren't a ton of people doing this, is the way I should say this, but the ones that we do, we have caught, and we've slapped wrists, we've banned from Fargo rate and Fargo rated tournaments, like depending on how egregious the situation is. But
I liked your video on what state was it? Ohio or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was pretty egregious. So
Yeah,
but
that was interesting.
but it's fortunately it's easy to see. And it gets, so what happens here, I know there's a pending question, but I'll talk about this part here real quick.
No, you're fine.
So what happens here is as a player's robustness goes up, what that actually does is tighten this curve. So we get more and more certain of where you are. So that may be 500 games. At 1,000 games, it starts to look like this. So those outlying performances have to get more and more, because now you have to get way out here. This is like 6 standard deviations away. We can see it in a second.
Right. So it, oh yeah. So I mean, it's not gonna. I accidentally say, oh man, he just had a really bad day. Like he broke his thumb and just couldn't play really good in this one tournament, and it's not gonna go suddenly go, oh man, he's trying to sandbag. It's gonna have to be something really consistent.
Yeah, and typically what we can do is like when Guardian trips and it tells us there's something going on, and we go and we start looking, we don't just let like Guardian start doing things, right? It's always us who look at it and apply some judgment to it. And what we'll do is some analysis like, okay, let's calculate their rating with only their tournament play. And now let's calculate their rating without any tournament play and only league play and compare those results. And you can see it. It's really easy, to be honest. It's really easy to see.
And it's like a lot of things. People are so quick to say that it's so easy to get around something. Well, it's there's always somebody a little smarter than you. It's just how it works. And so the question,
that's the nature of incentives.
You're right. Yeah. So there's a question floating around in the comments right now, or comments floating around in the comments right now about races and why and another thing that people think that another misconception, I guess, is because of tournaments that don't race more large races, that only race like 3 or 4, and they think because of the race size, they think that that's causing Fargo not to be true for their rating. They think it's not rating them correctly because the races aren't right. I guess what there is does the race 2 in a tournament matter in their Fargo rating?
So not really. The more information we have, the better job that we can do, but we also don't really deal with whole numbers, right? We deal with the fractional parts of the game as well. So for example, when 2 players play and they are only going to play one game. So the score is going to be 1-0 or it's going to be 0-1, right? And this is the ultimate short race. Well, when we calculate this, there's an expected outcome here. And say that this player is expected to win this 71% of the time, and this player is expected to win this 29% of the time, something like that. And there's going to be an outcome. Well, even though this player won, it's a little bit hard to explain without getting into the super math here, but this doesn't count as a 0 for this player. It counts as this fractional part. So although it's only 1-0, it's not just black and white. You won or you lost, right? There's a fractional element to it. So when you have a shorter race that might be a 3-1 or a 3-2, something like that, there's still an expectation that can be calculated, and more games are better. But what we end up with is this isn't the only game that we have for a player.
Right.
3-1, right? We have typically lots and lots of games, and that's why we have a robustness requirement of 200 before we'll even say that you have a Fargo rating. Right. And that's for this, right? To ensure that we have enough of this data to adequately be able to even generate a
And
rating.
and then it comes down to something that I know you've probably said more times than you can even fathom the count, but we say it 1,000 times. The data, it's got to be there for a system to work. You have to use it. You can't just sit around and talk about it. You have to go play and put some games in there. And and that's a great explanation too. I think for people, especially with the race thing, that even that zero counts.
It does. Yep.
Um, so I have another question real quick because I know Kaylee's kind of chomping at it. We mentioned the Salado thing. We got their side of how it come about. We'd love to hear about yours, but I'm kind of, as we're talking about this situation, we're kind of curious how that works now with being able to report those single games. Have you seen have you seen, I don't know. I guess can't find the word I'm looking for. I guess what's the impact of the Salado and starting to add in single matches now?
Yeah.
And league
Yeah.
matches also, because you haven't had league matches being entered the whole time either, right?
Well,
I'm sorry, I missed out on the first part of what you said there, Kaylee. And
League matches.
okay. So
Yep.
we do have thousands of league divisions reporting to Fargo Rate every year that come in through our LMS or league management system. But the real impact of Salado has been most significantly in the areas of the country that don't have Fargo rated tournaments going on, that don't have a Fargo rate league that's using LMS that's sending the data directly to us. The players want it in those locations, and that's where Salado really fills that niche, as those players can kind of self-select to we want to be playing these games, and we want this data to go to Fargo Rate. So they use Salado to do that, and it works really well. And we get a substantial number of games through that.
With
Those players.
So with the league management, that's I mean, if you don't have access to tournaments, that would be your next bet. Best bet would be going league, and then obviously you can supplement with Salado. That how does that work as far as, I mean, does it change the normal system that people play? Like, a lot of players around here either between like APA, because I know they can't do that because most of the leagues that use LMS are pretty much BCA. Trying to think, the USAPL, right?
USAPL. Yep.
And so, how does the format change, or is it still? Do you still play like the round robin, 16, 4-on-4 stuff like that for league management, or is it scored differently? Are all the matches Fargo rated, or
Yeah, well, so you can do whatever you want, really. I mean, it sounds crazy to say that, but I'll show you what I mean here.
I looked into it one time, and I know they did give a lot of options, and then I kind of.
Yeah, it's almost too many is one of the problems.
It did.
And depending on when you looked at it, it may have actually changed quite a bit.
It probably has. It's been a little while.
So USAPL is a CSI thing that is kind of a set base. It's a lot like APA. It's a little bit different, but it uses Fargo ratings to determine races and things like that. And if you're not doing a set based thing, you can do all kinds of other things in LMS. And I'm just going to show you kind of an example. So we have our score sheet builder here. And with the score sheet builder, you can build almost any format that you can imagine. So for example, if I have something as simple as a 3x3 round robin, and we're going to do just 3 singles games, I just drag them in. So there's the first round, and we're going to have home players breaking. Oops, I gotta say we have 3 players here. So basically, you're just creating your score sheet how you want it, right? And then let's say the second round, we actually want to be Scotch doubles. So I'm going to drag in a Scotch doubles match, and we're going to have home player 1 and home player 2 play these 2 away players. And then in the final round, we're going to do, I don't know, another Scotch game, but this one's going to be 8-ball and this one's going to be 9-ball or something like that. And then the other 2 players are going to play. So you can create just about any kind of format that you want. You could even say in this last one, we're going to take our 2-star players and they're going to do a race to 5, something like that. So I've just created a crazy score sheet here that has kind of one round at the beginning, a game of Scotch doubles, or it could be multiple games of Scotch doubles in here, and then a race at the end. So
And
you can create just about whatever you want.
and would that be just? I mean, you can't do that every week, can you? Or is that just set? Or is that just the standard? Would that be setting the standard for the league?
You would be setting this for the league at the
Okay.
beginning of the season.
Okay.
Yep.
That
And
is-
then you're just filling in the players that, the week that you play.
Now, I know that I work with those certain leagues. This is an option that comes with sanctioning with those leagues. Is this available to leagues that aren't sanctioning with someone, or just a private league or anything like that?
Yeah, and we actually have quite a few of these. So we obviously partner pretty closely with CSI, and they offer, if you sanction with CSI, league operators get all this for free at no cost, right? The use of LMS. There's also our companion app, our Fargo Rate app, that has a paid version that's about $1 a month. It's like $12.99 a year. And then you get access to your full match history, the extra charts and graphs, and all the other bells and whistles that come along with it. You get all of your LMS stats in the app. Typically, players have to pay $1 a month for that to get it. If they're sanctioned using LMS, all the players get it for free as well. So there's some added stuff in there. To sanction with CSI, I think is $20 now. And you don't have to sanction with CSI to use it. And in fact, we have quite a few leagues that do this as well. We still charge that $20 to use it directly. But then, 13 of that is basically used for the players' access to the app. So it kind of comes down to that $7 per league. So if you have players that are playing in multiple divisions throughout the year, they're only charged for once. They're not every time. So this was creating the score sheet here, but then you can also use LMS to do, we do traditional handicapping, like you can do ball average, plus minus, things like that. But then we also have a whole flurry of Fargo rated handicaps as well that you can do by round, by game, by whatever.
Wow.
That actually looks at the individuals playing that particular game to figure out what the handicaps should be, rather than this rudimentary, like, add up all the ball averages for the players and it's the same every round. And
innings.
yeah.
Yeah. So where can somebody find some information on that if they wanted to check that out?
Yeah. So if you go to fargorate.com and then /LMS is, yeah. So out of those 750,000, so we've had 157,000 games already in June that have come in through here. That's pretty amazing.
League games.
So yeah, so lots of people using League, but this has kind of all the information on it if you wanted to go straight with Fargo Rate, or if you wanted to use one of the CSI options, or it's all out here.
That's awesome. And I know it's all these big tournaments keep you guys pretty busy. I have a question. It's I don't know if I'd say it's a rumor, but it's one of those things that I've kind of heard, and I'm wondering if it's true. Do you ever freeze Fargo rates as like before a big tournament or anything like that?
Yeah. So we never stop computing them. Like, they are being computed every single day. However, for some events, it is, we won't update whatever software they happen to be using with those until they're done. So, and really the reason for that is you don't want, it gets really confusing for players when they look at the score sheet and might see one rating, and then they look in the app and see a different rating, and which is right. So it makes, usually if a tournament director does a good job of saying what's printed on the score sheet is what it is, and players are, it's becoming less of a deal. It was, like, a number of years ago, it was kind of a big deal when players didn't have a lot of experience with Fargo ratings and know that they can change and do change every day. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the robustness, I can't remember where I saw it, but there's a reason you didn't just call it games played, right? There's other
Yeah.
data that goes into that.
Well, so once upon a time, we thought we might include something else in it. So we wanted a name that wasn't just a number of games. We've since decided that we don't need to do that. So,
Okay.
but
I thought it was maybe how bad you won or lost, or
well, so we do. I'm gonna draw one more picture here as well.
sure.
I'm enjoying it. You draw as much as you
I am
want.
too.
So, one of the things that you can't really do in Elo is a time decay on matches. So older matches count less, and with our math, we can. So the curve looks like this sort of thing. And we'll call this 3 years right here. And we'll call this 100%. And we'll call this this is something that it's hard to do on a real whiteboard. There we go. And we'll call this 50%. So right here and right here, you'll have to bear with me a little bit. I'm drawing with my mouse and it doesn't work very good. But at 3 years, matches count half. So how much a match affects your rating drops off with time. So matches now that are back in 2019, 2018 for me are counting half as much to my rating as they used to. So at 6 years, it's kind of, that quarter, and then it kind of gradually, they always still kind of count some, but they are less and less important for your rating. So that's really important for example, junior players that are rapidly improving, like very quickly improving. And it's also important for players that maybe have suffered a game-altering injury, like a loss of a limb or something like that, that makes it very difficult to play at your same speed, or even as we age and our vision gets a little worse, or we get a little shake in the hand or whatever it is, that you need to be able to like discount those previous matches.
That makes yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I have now. Talking about I using the InGen and stuff, and I do report all those. I was always wondering about a point where I could, where I had enough data in my I guess with my players where I could switch out of using the Elo part of it and start doing more with the Fargo. But then I got hung up on what to do with players who didn't have Fargos, because one of the other big misconceptions and questions that comes up is, well, I don't have a Fargo, so what am I going to be? And then they play in their first tournament and they get their provisional, and it's something like, really crazy, or the infamous -90.
or the 940.
Yes,
Yeah,
that yes, yes. I actually, one of the first players I reported years ago when I first started, I think he played a total of I think 11 or 12 games or something in the one tournament, and he won all of them. And his provisional was like 860 or something, which was like almost 100 higher than Shane at the time.
Yeah. So here's the problem. Is in the league I play in, we play 8 games a session, 8 games a night or a week, or however you want to say it. And you play twice against each player. 4-player teams, we play twice against each player. So let's say that we bring in a new sub, has never played in our league. We don't have any Fargo rate information on him, and he wins all of them. And he gets a score of 8-0 against a whole bunch of 1-0s or 2-0s, I guess, against all the different opponents. So in our math, we need to figure out how good this player is. And what we typically see are scores like 4-2. Well, this tells us, we're going to use a triangle here as a difference, that there's probably about 100-point difference between these two players. If the score was 4-2, if it was 4-1, it's probably more like closer to 200-point difference, right? We can kind of leverage our math for that. Well, when you see an 8-0, what do you do with that? Well, what actually happens here is this player is like positive infinity good. And if it was the other way around,
you can't tell pool players that, right?
Right. Negative infinity. Bad. So this player right here may never lose a game. At this point, it's highly unlikely they're not going to lose a game, but they might never lose a game. And then they are kind of infinitely good. No one can beat them. Well, we know that that's not possible, right? They're eventually going to lose. They're going to knock a cue ball off the table at the worst possible time and hang a 9-ball or something like that. They're going to lose, just like this player at some point is going to win. So it doesn't make sense to say someone's at negative infinity or positive infinity. And that's where starter ratings come into play. So starter ratings are one of the points of confusion. There are always points of confusion with starter ratings, it seems. But one of the biggest ones is starter ratings. So what we see, so we're going to say that this is 200 games for a player, and this is 0 games over here. And as they play, their rating, when we don't have a lot of information on them, you remember back to this image I drew, that the width of this thing was defined by their robustness, and it got skinnier as we went. When they have very little robustness, we don't know exactly 100% where they lie in here. So this is a big fat curve. So as they're playing their games, their rating can oscillate quite a bit until they start getting closer to that 200 games where it starts, and it could still move, right? We see little moves that are kind of like this as they have good streaks or bad streaks. But it's this oscillation at the beginning. You know, this could be that positive 930, and this could be the, you know, the negative 210, right? As they went from winning all their matches one week to losing everything for 3 weeks in a row. Something like that. That rating is oscillating, but we're gradually learning more about how they play, and this graph on the right is tightening up, and we're getting a better idea. Well, what starter ratings allow us to do is to put some guardrails on here. So the league operator, the tournament director watches this player play a little bit and goes, you know what? I think they're about a 450. Feels like about a 450 player. So they'll set their starter rating to 450. And what that does, I'm going to use a different color here.
So they are the ones that would assign, because I know that I've had through Salado, I've had a few players without ratings, and we've maybe contacted you or Reed and Colby.
Yeah,
But the tournament
they will
directors
get a
can.
hold of us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we rely on local. We don't know. We've got hundreds of thousands of players, and we don't know how individually each of these players play outside of the data that's reported to us. So we rely on local knowledge, tournament directors and league operators to do that. So what the starter ratings do is essentially put bumpers on this. So it doesn't say that they're going to be a 450, but what it does is will cause this thing to, instead of these crazy oscillations, there'll still be some, but they'll kind of stay a little bit more constrained and not bounce around so much. And what really is going on here is, and this is a point that I want to make super clear, is when we deal with Fargo ratings, nothing is ever as easy as we would hope it would be, but we get lots of different rating terms. So you can have a Fargo rating. You can have something called a provisional rating. Wider, not bigger. Here we go. You have a starter rating, which we just kind of briefly talked about. You have a performance rating. And then lastly, there's something called an effective rating. Okay, so kind of the last big thing to talk about here are these. So the starter rating is kind of a guess, and that's what's going to be used to kind of constrain your rating a little bit until you get to 200 games, and then it's completely disregarded, like not looked at anymore at all. Your performance rating is this wildly oscillating line that I drew here. That's what we're actually calculating as your rating. So we're not looking at any starter ratings. We're not looking at anything like that. It's literally based on the data we have for you. This is what you are playing at. The combination of the starter rating and the performance rating is what constitutes your effective rating. So we blend those two together until you get to 200 games, and then we stop blending them together and we look at just the performance rating. So to draw just a couple more pictures here, if we look at, so there's 200 games, we'll say this point is 100 games, this point is 50 games. So at 50 games, we use 75% of your starter rating and 25% of your performance rating. At 100 games, it's half and half. Oop. Performance rating, starter rating. At 150 games, it's now inverted, and we use hardly any of your starter rating, and now it's mostly your performance rating, and by 200 games, it's all performance rating. So your starter rating is used a lot at the beginning, and then gradually we use less and less until it completely goes away. So what we end up with is a question all the time that says, well, if you would have started me at a 600, I would have, now I have 300 games. I'm higher because you started me at a 600 than if you had started me at a 500. And that just isn't true, because that performance rating is all that matters. And at no point do we influence your performance rating based on your starter rating. It doesn't feed back that way. It's only ever your performance rating.
Because essentially you work that first game sets that up, and then you work from it in the system. The everything you have in place works it up and down, helping to narrow it. Not so. Yeah, I guess to kind of explain it to simplify it, I guess it's your way of establishing. I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Excuse me.
It's a little, it's unfortunately hard to explain.
Well, yeah,
right,
it is,
right.
but everything that works well usually is.
Yeah. Well, let's actually just do the math, and hopefully that will be meaningful to some people. So let's say I want to get rid of that and get rid of this. Let's say at this point in time that no starter rating set for this player, none at all. And we say we compute that this player is currently a 590. And then at the halfway point, when they're at 100 games, we look and we say they're a 615. And then at the 3/4 point, we look and we see they're a 540. And then at the 200 point, we're going to say they are a 539, something like that. So they were 590, then they went up to 615 and kind of back down a little bit. So if there was no starter rating set for this person, these are literally the numbers that they're going to see, right, at those points in time. Now, let's say that we do set a starter rating for this person. And back here at the beginning of the time, we set it to 500. So what we're going to do is when this point comes and we need to calculate their effective rating, we're going to look at our little chart here and say we get 25% of the performance rating. So we take 590 times 0.25, right? 1/4 is going to give us, some number. And then we're going to add in 75% of starter rating, which is 500. 0.75. And that is going to give us, can you add it in your head?
I just saw Kaylee's head explode.
I already forgot the numbers.
So it's 147.5 plus the next one is pretty easy. We'll add those together and we get a 522.5. So instead of, we'll call it a 523. So instead of seeing this 590, they are going to see an effective rating of 523. Okay. Now, when we get to halfway, we do the same thing, but now we take that 615 is what we show them performing at times half times 0.5, and we add in their starter rating. And now we're only going to use half of it instead of 3/4 of it. So we take that times 0.5 and we get, what is that? 307 plus 250. sure I'm doing it right here, plus 250. Yeah, we'll say 557 here. So even their effective rating has went up a little bit, but just because the 615 was a little bit higher. Now we
Right.
get to the 3/4 point and we get which one am I doing first here? The actual one. So we'll do 540. And now we're going to use 75% of this one. So that's times. This is really weird to draw with my mouse. And now we're only going to use
Doing a great
one.
job.
We're only going to use 1/4 of multiply here of that. So now we end up with last one. Make sure I clear this out. 540 times 0.75 is 405. And then we have 1/4 of 500. Add those together. We get a 530. Right?
I shut down after the first math problem. I'm
Yep,
not gonna
yep.
lie. My
Most do.
yeah.
Yeah, 530. So now when we get to this next step, now we're just 539. We're not counting the starter rating at all. So what you can see here is instead of them seeing a 590 and a 615 and a 540, they got numbers that were somewhere in between what they were performing at and their starter rating.
So yeah.
So if I changed this 500 to a 600, that doesn't change these performance numbers at all. Right? They're still the same. What changes is the effective rating. When they get to the end, they're still going to be this 539. It doesn't matter what this could be set to 10,000 and they're still going to be a 539 when they get to the end. So it doesn't matter what you were started with. It literally is just the guardrails right here, but you end up in the same place.
How you get to where you So one other question I have real quick is we talk about the expected one player is better than the other. They're expected to win so many games out of a race. How does your final score, because I know when you report everything it's without handicaps or without it's the true result. How does your actual result affect your rating? As so let's say I'm 2 times a better player. I'm 100 points above somebody, and I'm supposed to beat them. But let's say I win hill versus beating them. I shut them out. How does that affect? How does those two situations affect your rating? Is there a big difference in that?
Yeah. So there's this this concept of Fargo ratings that I call the and then concept, where it's okay, I have my rating and then something happens and I have a new rating, right? So there's this idea that you have a number, you play against somebody, we turn a crank, you have a new number, and you should be able to tell what it is based on the prior data. That's ELO, right? That's what ELO does.
Right, exactly.
We don't do that. So the and then problem for us is hard to, or it's a problem for us because it's the way people think about it, but it's not actually what we do. So I showed you the graph of all of these dots.
Right.
And we have a ton of lines between all of these dots. And these are real players with real matches that had real outcomes, real winners, real losers, whatever, right? So our math every day forgets completely about yesterday. We don't care what anybody was yesterday. It's gone. We take in all of the new data for today. So that may be a whole bunch of new lines that have come in. Maybe these players played each other a few more times and some new players came in. So we have all of this new information. We go back through all of the data and we compute anew every single day. It's like Groundhog's Day, right? We do it all over again.
Oh.
So when that new game comes in, we don't only gain information about this player and this player, but we also now, since we have more information about them, we also have more information about this player. Because if we know more about him, we now know more about like her, for example. And all the way through this entire graph, all of those blue blobs are connected somehow to each other. Now, it could be down to a millionth of a decimal point by the time it factors all the way out to the edges. But every new game is more information in the system about all of the players. So when we get the question, so I won this one, how much am I going to go up or go down? I hate when people answer with the words "it depends," but it really does depend. And one of the things it depends upon is how much new information are we getting from this game. If you are playing an opponent that you've played 1,000 times, it's not that much new information. So your rating is probably not going to move that much. However, if it is a really lopsided victory, like greatly exceeded expectations, or like let's say that two players that were 100 points apart played, and I use this 4-2 example because it's like easy to see one player got twice as many as the other, but it just as easily could be 10-5 or whatever. And if these players really are 100 points apart, they played exactly to expectation. Nothing, no new information, right? It's just reinforces what we already knew. However, if it went 10-9, now that's novel, right? That wasn't supposed to happen. It can happen, but we didn't expect it to happen. So now this player is either a little bit better than we thought, or this player is a little bit worse, or what usually is the case is this player's a little bit worse and this player's a little bit better. So even when you have thousands of games in the system, you should expect a rating change when this happens. But what it's going to be dependent upon is the robustnesses of the two players involved, how connected they are to other players, and how much new information this is providing to the graph overall. But when this lower rated player greatly exceeded their expectation and will definitely go up.
So I know that we can see our our public matches in the app if you're a subscriber, right? Is there any way that we can see all of our connections?
We are working on that right now. It's funny you ask. We have a couple people that have been working on it since the beginning of the year to actually make that available in the app.
Right.
So you can do like the degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Like show me everybody that I have in common with Shane, or like the shortest distance to Kelly or whoever it might be.
That's gonna be neat.
Yeah, I enjoy the Fargo app.
Yeah, so the list is something new, right? The 100 player, like best 100 players in Illinois, I could look up, right?
Yep. And we're adding more of those all the time.
Is it down to city? Like, can I look up, say, the top 100 players in Peoria?
So it depends upon how many players there are in those areas. The more players that we have, the more expansive list we'll do. So as more players in that area get onto Fargo rate, we may do, like right now, it may be just the top 50 in Illinois. But we could, as more players are in, we could start doing a top 100 and then maybe a top 50 in Chicago area or something like that as the areas get bigger. So if you looked at our top lists right now, they are typically by state, except for a couple of the areas where we have a lot of players. And you will see, so for example, Arizona, we have the top 100 in Arizona. In Alaska, we only have the top 30 because there aren't as many Fargo rated players. And then when we get to the Northeast, we have the top 100 in the entire Northeast section rather than just New York or so on. So as we grow in certain areas, then we're adding more.
That's strange. I thought I would have thought there'd been a little more player action up in that area. But I suppose
there is getting to be, but we have to go through and curate these lists and make sure
right.
that
Yeah, I suppose I keep forgetting the players are probably there, but the Fargo's probably still new to them. Do you find old school players still quite hesitant to do the Fargo thing?
So it's really funny. We have Fargo rates have been adopted in many different places now. And just like there are the stages of grief that you have to go through, there's kind of the stages of Fargo rate adoption that we see.
I like it.
And one of them is, Fargo rates are great and all, but if you're including league games, then it's bullshit. or something like that, right? Because nobody concentrates during Fargo, right? It should be all tournament play. And then we get it the opposite way, and it says, well, there shouldn't be any tournament play. You should just do league play. And then we get that you're killing all the action around here, right? It's good, but nobody wants to play anymore because nobody can kind of hide. Nobody wants to kind of gamble anymore. And then invariably we get to this spot where there is so much action that I was just talking to a tournament director a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas, who they suspect now they have too many tournaments going on, and they're all Fargo rated and whatever, but it's saturated. There are so many players now that are playing both money matches and tournaments, that like they're willing to get into these events now because they kind of, whether they're handicapped or whatever, they kind of know what they're getting into, and they're not worried so much about maybe like the old hustler mentality or something like that. So initially we do get some pushback there until they realize how much more action is out there now. So you get 400 level players playing money matches who never would have done that before.
I remember when I first started looking at Fargo, watching the number of games and players go up on the old screen at the beginning. He used to talk about how many games are in, and I think he still does. I think on the that was my other question. And are they still with the app coming out? At one point, they were going to stop the original Fargo rate the way you used to access it, but I know it's still.
Yeah. So I want to kill that thing so badly. We have an old server that's running that. It was only supposed to live for a short time, and our app was supposed to kind of assume that. And we got so much pushback from people when we started saying that we were going to turn it off. It's like, until you have a solution that I can access from my desktop or my laptop, don't turn it off.
Yeah.
And you'll notice there's ads and things
Oh,
on there
yeah.
now, and it's not that I want ads out there. It's I'm trying to get people to quit using it and to use the app.
We won't tell anybody your secrets.
So there's the movie Ready Player One, where I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's basically like the metaverse, right?
Yeah.
and there's the evil company IOI that has they did this study where they can reduce the screen size, all ads except for 15% before people start having seizures. And that's what I want to do with the fair match. Get it down so far that
it's kind of funny that you mentioned, like, the last time I actually looked at it up that way on the desktop. That's what I was thinking was, man, is there going to be any Fargo stuff on here? Or I got a question from a good friend of ours. He does a lot of Fargo rate stuff actually in in the area. Excuse me. He's asking, and I've heard people ask this before, because it seems like it's, I don't know, not tough, but accessing the actual list in the app. Some people I don't think are seeing that filter thing, because you have to go through one or two actual filters to get the list right on the app.
You have to be a paid subscriber, I think, to see those.
Yes, to see all of them. Some of them are available to anyone, like our Top World US are available to anyone. But when you're a paid subscriber, you will. Can you see my phone?
And Steve, it's only $12 a year, right?
We're still looking at your whiteboard right now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, let me stop sharing here. My camera light is on, but I can't tell what is there. There
he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So through the left side menu here, there's the top player list, and there's the the full set that are out there.
All right, and that's only for paid subscribers.
Yeah, you get the top male and female world at US for free, and then the additional layered ones are
awesome.
Are in the subscribed area.
That's awesome.
Steve, your subscription is only $12 a year, right? So it's $1 a month.
It's $12.99. Yeah, so it's like $1.05. Yeah. We would like it to be 12, but that's the app stores always have to add the 99s.
There you go. It's worth it. I'd say I love it.
I've
been really enjoying looking up that last match I played where it said I won. I really enjoyed seeing that. But
my favorite thing is when somebody subscribes for the first time and I happen to be standing next to them, invariably. So they have their phone and they know what they're looking for, and they start scrolling back through their history, and they relive in their mind that one match where they beat so-and-so, like their arch nemesis, every time. So that's the first thing they do is start scrolling and go, I can't believe you have that one.
It's going to be a
Now,
rare one.
if somebody thinks that there's a mistake, or maybe they're
Mhm.
supposed to be rated differently, or for instance, we are on the border kind of between Iowa and Illinois, and we play in Davenport tournaments in Iowa. So we
Mhm.
were entered. It still says I'm from Iowa. Um,
Okay.
so do we just email you, or
Yep.
do you have a support, or
Yep. Support@fargorate.com.
And they
okay?
are, you guys, I remember when I first started doing stuff with TNT and reporting Fargo to you guys before the app, and I had some problems with some guys and having multiple accounts, and you guys were amazing getting everybody squared up as far as getting them hooked up with their right account. And then when the app came out, I remember how super helpful you guys were, helping me kind of make sure everybody's stuff was right, and they were real good about getting it. So yeah, if you got to get any information, just email them, and they'll hook you up.
Yeah, we try to get to them all right away. It depends on, like everything, it depends on when you get a hold of us. If it's, the first week of September when there's, 1,000 new leagues starting, it may take a few hours or a few days for us to get back, but we will try.
But what if somebody thinks, that they should have a different number than they do? How do you review that?
Yeah, so we will look. Obviously we can only look at the data that we have
Mhm.
for that player. But we will look, and we'll make sure that there hasn't been some weird conflation of two player names where you have some data to your record that didn't exist. And we typically will see that if there was like a junior senior type situation,
Mhm.
and then we'll make sure those properly get separated. But if it's literally you think that you should be a 500 and we have you at like a 425, we'll look through the data, and usually, as we kind of explain what we're seeing to folks, they realize, oh yeah, yeah, I did. Last summer I didn't really care that much, or
Right.
I.
It,
Uh,
it's funny how awesome somebody is until you show them the numbers, and then they go, oh,
oh
Do you
yeah,
have
oh.
people that come to you and think that they're too low?
we do, yeah, quite often. Yep,
Think that
quite
they're
Wow.
too
often.
low. Oh, that's awesome. This has been this has been awesome. You've actually answered a lot of questions for me that are going to help me with questions I get about stuff. Um, yeah, Roy says, yeah, they respond and merge fixed profiles less than 24 hours, and he emails them. Appreciates that. Roy does a lot of stuff with Fargo. Uh, Hans Superfan is back in the comments, and he says he's overrated. And I believe him. He probably is. You should definitely check that out. Um,
Is that the official name, Han Superfan?
yeah, he hasn't changed it yet like we told him to, but that's what he is.
Yeah,
He's been missing
yeah.
for a while. It's good to see him back. But no, I really appreciate the time and the explanations, and absolutely love the whiteboard drawings, because nothing explains things better to me than lines. I'm not gonna lie, I love that. So when you mentioned those big tournaments and a bunch of big new leagues coming in, what's the next big tournament that Fargo Rates are really going to be paying attention to?
Oh, let's see. There's an event coming up here shortly in Calgary. That'll be one of the next big ones. There's a WPBA event up there, along with the U.S. Pro Series event, and a large tournament as well. So,
And
amateur event.
one last thing before I completely forget.
Plus, Black Gold is going on right now as well in Oklahoma.
Oh,
So, yeah.
juniors. You're probably seeing quite a large, rush of new junior players. Are did they? I guess I mean, I guess my question is, how does that work? How does it? How do they? Is there any special consideration for the junior thing? I guess because the Fargo rate is pretty much just blind to just everything but the data, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we really designed the system to be able to do, is to be agnostic of gender and age and geography, any of that. It's literally, did you win or did you lose, right? And with enough of that data, we can figure out where people set. The one challenge that comes with junior players, I mean, you have someone like Savannah Easton, for example, that's improving very rapidly, and you have to make sure that you can keep up with that rating change and it doesn't lag too far behind. So we're constantly monitoring that, looking at just the matches she's played, and for example the last 6 months versus the prior 6 months or the prior 18 months before that, and making sure that we're adequately keeping up.
That's awesome. Well, you guys are doing awesome stuff, and I go out of my way constantly to just remind people to put more information in there because that's the only way it's going to work for us. Because Kaylee and I are on a mission. We're on a mission from the pool gods to make sure that we get one system we can all play pool by, and so far you're in the lead. So
Well,
far,
I appreciate it.
you're in the lead. But no, it is a great system, and I keep urging people. It's just going to get better with the data, and if they and I always tell them if you got a question, ask. You're gonna they're gonna answer them. They're gonna answer them really well, just like you have tonight, and I appreciate that. You got anything else there, Kaylee?
Well, are you gonna let me ask some questions yet?
I have a ton.
Well, I mean, I have a question about incentives for tournament directors, for large tournament directors, or is there any ideas or incentives to get them to start entering their data, or do you take data that's from the past? I know you don't in Salado, but a large amount of data drop or anything from anywhere to get more numbers in?
Yeah, so we have the several requirements that go into what kind of data can come into Fargo, and there's some requirements around it, and a lot of that is to prevent different kinds of biases from entering the data. And what I'm specifically talking about here are like statistical biases. So for example, there's something called selection bias, where let's say I'm playing in our local Monday night tournament and I do okay, like I play to my expectation and I do okay. I don't really care if that data goes in or not, right? It's just I did just like I'm supposed to do, nothing great. But that tournament that I beat Mike Chiwakin 5-1, who's 200 points higher than me, you're damn right I want that data going. That's selection bias, right? When I'm kind of picking and choosing the data that I want to go in, got to avoid that, right? So there's a couple rules, right? Like you have to know ahead of time that that data is going in. So that's one. There has to be kind of something at stake, right? So whether it's a monetary entry fee or league dues or something like that. And that is to incentivize you to kind of play well, and to you're less likely to just throw a whole bunch of matches, right? If you have some stake in it, right? Like if there's some usually monetary fee or something like that that goes along with it. And then the last one is it has to be publicly available. The results have to be publicly available. So that's for our peer review system to work, right? Which is really important, is you need people to
I
be able to look at
explain
those
that to people.
matches and call bullshit when it needs to be called.
Yeah.
Yes, I use that and explain that to people that, those are public. So if we were to see somebody that we know is really good go in and blow a bunch of matches, then
Yep. So
Yep.
so one thing that you will notice in Salado, so I just said all those things, right? And those pretty easily apply to tournaments, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a bracket and the bracket's publicly available. And you know what? I just knocked my coffee over. Of
Oh
course I
no.
did.
I've done that.
That's the curse of talking with your hands.
It is. I think I'm okay though. All right. So if you think about tournaments, that's all pretty easy to satisfy those requirements. But where it's less easy to satisfy them is with, for example, Salado. So in Salado, they add the if you're going to submit it to Fargo Rate, there's a fee that gets charged. And it's not that we want to use it to generate revenue, it's you have to care. If you didn't
Yes.
have to pay a fee for it, what would stop you from sitting at home on the couch and just creating 10,000 fake matches?
Exactly.
So it's this kind of barrier to prevent that. And then
Mhm.
also, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but in the Fargo Rate app, even if you have to pay the subscription fee or be in a sanctioned league to get access to all of your matches, right? To be able to look at the full history that we've accumulated for you, unless they're Salado matches. If they're Salado matches, you can see anybody's Salado matches, whether they've paid or not, and whether they're sharing their matches or not, because that's where the peer review comes in for it. You need to be able to see those so people can't try and, for example, I just knocked my coffee over again. God.
I heard it that time.
Yeah. Anyway, you understand what I'm saying, I think.
Peer review. Yes.
Yeah.
Those
That's
things
very
are important.
important.
So when we talk about this, all came about asking about previous matches. They have to fit, right? That category. So it's kind of tough when you talk about maybe putting in a whole batch of previous matches if the players didn't know at the time that they were going to go in.
Right.
So some things like that have to be considered. But
Okay.
And you have and I think isn't there a limit for how long? Like I think I have to do my tournaments have to be submitted within 2 weeks of when they're played, right? Isn't it 2 weeks?
yeah, we do like them to be fairly timely.
Yeah.
And part of that is because we field the calls from the players when they don't go in.
Yeah.
So-
I'm not seeing this in my match. Where's it at? Where's it at? Oh yeah. I found that out one time. I forgot to submit one tournament one time and they were calling me. Hey, I'm not seeing it. I'm like, okay, I'll take care of it. I forgot where I was at. So we were talking about the incentives for the players, and Kaylee asked as far as like is there ways to try to get more tournaments to actually be Fargo friendly?
Well, what we found is that players are kind of voting with their feet a little bit, and they're playing in the events that are reporting to Fargo Rate. So that's a big incentive for tournament directors to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're also seeing bigger fields in the ones that do report. So that's a compelling reason for them to do it as well. But as far as any other incentive, we haven't really had to do that.
Did Fargo start up in the Wisconsin area?
No, we started in the North Dakota area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There's a lot of pool in Wisconsin, and some of the tournaments up there actually require a certain robustness.
Yeah, so we're very strong in Wisconsin, and we work closely with them to kind of get their ratings to where they need to be, and that's actually a pretty common thing. For example, they'll require you gotta be established at least 200 games, unless you're from out of state and we don't know who you are. Then we want 500 or something like that.
I mean, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
We put the ratings out there. We don't tell you how to use them. So.
And that's what we always say is that if we could just pick that one system and all use it, then it'd make all of our lives easier. For tournament, running tournaments and leagues. So.
Absolutely.
The only other thing I want to say is I really like the comment Reed told us that a Fargo rate is not given, it is earned. I really like that.
And Reed would know. He was complaining to me a couple of days ago about he's lost a few points and he's
yeah.
So.
Oh, I keep telling her I'm going to make her a shirt that says that because I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Hans, the super fan, says he wants you to do something because Nebraska sucks at reporting Fargo. So he says he wants you to do something. Go to Nebraska and tell them to get better at Fargo. Get Salado, Hans. Come on.
Talk to RJ.
Yeah. Go talk to. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go talk. Yeah, go find Rusty. He'll help you out. Steve. Absolutely awesome talking her off because obviously you need more coffee and probably another towel.
My towel is saturated. That's for sure.
The one last thing, real quickie, I just want to ask you about. I know there's a couple places that people do this, obviously there's different ways you can do this with like InGen, Challenge. What are the couple other places that people can do it pretty easily, report their tournaments?
So Digital Pool.
Mm-hmm.
CompuSport has a download that we can pull to
Quick
get
question
that
on
data.
that. Sorry to interrupt, but that was actually CompuSport was they have like 10 years of data for me and for a lot of players. So that was the one question I had about pulling like that data. Most of it is tournament data, so we would have known that it was getting reported somewhere, and I didn't know if that was ever a thought.
Well, I mean, we don't own that data, right? That would be CompuSport and those tournament directors, and it would have to kind of get reported to us. We can't just go out there and get it. But
yeah.
That was I was kind of wondering that too. Do you guys? It's all submitted. It's not. This isn't everything. All Fargo rights are completely submitted. They're never just randomly pulled from an event that a player doesn't know about. They have to be submitted, right?
Yes, unless it's a newsworthy event, right, where it's generally recognized that it would be
Okay,
submitted.
I got you. So,
Gotcha.
all right. Well, again, Steve, thank you so much.
Not that all events aren't newsworthy,
Right. Yeah. Well,
but some more so than others. So.
well, right. Yeah. Your bigger events that don't come out and just say it's going to be Fargo rated. I get. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, I appreciate all this amazing information again. And are you still doing? They at one point were every day on the Facebook page on Fargo Rate. You were doing a little kind of video, kind of explanation of certain things. Are you still doing them every day, or?
We're not doing them every day. We're actually trying to build up kind of a more formal calendar about when we're going to do them and what the content's going to be, and kind of center them a little bit more around some of the big events that are coming up, whether they're amateur events or pro events, and trying to make them a little bit more specific. Now that we have kind of the base videos out there about how Fargo ratings work and things like that, we can start doing more of the fun stuff
Awesome.
and some of the insights that we have that.
Those were very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you a tiny tease here. Let me share my screen one more time.
I like teasies. They make me happy.
I'm excited. So when is your next app update? Because I'm excited to see the different connections that we all have, and
it will be this summer yet. Probably right around the 4th of July, somewhere in there.
Oh, that's not.
I'm excited.
Me too.
While he's looking for that, I just want to remind everybody, starting up this weekend is the big Heartland Juniors tournament at Racks on the Rocks. It's going to be a ton of fun. If you're in the area, go check it out. Watch for stuff from Beast Mode Productions. He'll be probably providing some really cool updates and all kinds of cool stuff. Check that out. Heartland Juniors tournament starts June 9th at Racks on the Rocks in Peoria. All right.
Awesome. Okay, so this is a tool that we had originally built, as you can see, for the US Pro Billiard Series with CSI and Predator, but we're getting ready to kind of release this for any players to look at. So as it is right now, I can go in and pick just about any pro player. So let's use Hunter Lombardo and pick your pro. How about Thorsten? And you'd be able to, with the new version of this, put in any players. But what this will show is if I scroll down to the bottom, here's since 2016 or maybe even 2015, here are the times they've played each other that we know about. So Hunter won 10-4 and then 10-4 at Super Billiards Expo back in 2016 and won this one 9-7. So we could see all the results when they played directly against each other, but then here's all their common opponents. Like they've played everybody, right? So we can look at all their common opponents, and then we can see what they did against the field. So Thorsten has him a little bit 50% winning percentage versus 45% winning percentage against the same players. And then there's a ton of information in here, but this is one of the things also coming out this summer is ability to do this with any players.
Oh, that's cool.
So
yes.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just leveraging some of that additional information that we have.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for letting us see that, Steve. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us and helping explain a lot of this. I'm really hoping people now are going to because Kaylee and I, well, Kaylee's better than that to me, but sometimes when I try to explain stuff, it kind of sounds like so, you did a pretty good job. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You have a great night. I hope we get to talk to you again soon. And good luck when you're out shooting next.
Absolutely. Thank you very
man.
much.
Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, see, I like when other people explain things that I don't have to try to, I don't know. And I feel better when somebody else uses drawings and figures and things like that. That makes me feel good. Oh man, Kaylee.
All right.
Well, you know what? We're gonna call that good. I think that was.
It's 8:30 and I have not even been home for work today.
I know,
so.
Kaylee, and answered a couple people's questions. Kaylee's playing with backgrounds because, well, she's in her car, and that's what she does. That is how that is how dedicated Kaylee is to bringing you guys the information that needs to be brought to you right here on TNT's Off the Rail. So I'm gonna let you get out of here. You finish. I'm gonna do a couple more things. I'm gonna pay the bills and say a
Thank
few
you.
nice things about things. You go home, do your thing, and I'll get a hold of you and talk to you. Thanks so much for getting us Steve Ernst from Fargo Rate. Kaylee's awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Miss Kaylee. So real quick before we get out of here again, yes, don't forget Racks on the Rocks, the juniors tournament that starts tomorrow. That's going to be awesome. Keep up with it. A couple of things real quick before I forget. Actually, I'll do. I'm going to show. Yeah, there we go. Don't forget to get a hold of Andy and the crew at General Automotive 417 Jason Avenue, Dixon, Illinois, 815-973-4160. No hassle, no worry. Andy and his crew will get it fixed in a hurry. Fix it right and in a hurry. Up front with honest prices, and they stand behind their work, offering a 2-year, 24,000-mile roadside assistance warranty and roadside assistance program. Get a hold of General Automotive today for all your automotive needs. 815-973-4160. They've been taking care of the TNT Mobile, keeping me back and forth, all kinds of stuff for a few years now. So make sure you give them a call and tell them TNT sent you. You guys saw on the TNT page last night, I did mention something about Salado matches. If you guys are in my local area, no matter where you're at, but if you're in my local area, I'm looking to start playing some Salado matches. So if you haven't yet, check it out, salado.app. Get on there and get your profile set up and hit me up and see if we can't maybe get a match together and hang out and play. Kaylee and I are also looking to get out and check out some more venues, pool-friendly venues. If you got a pool vibe at your place or something like that and would love a little exposure, love people to see it, and got a Wednesday night, you wouldn't mind killing about an hour and having us come hang out and do a live show from their place, get a hold of us, 833-TNT Pool. And maybe we can figure something out. Just remember, it could be a lot of fun. It could be a lot of fun. We'd love to show off anywhere that's helping grow and promote the sport. So if you got a pool-friendly venue and wouldn't mind hosting us for a while we do our show live and tell everybody about your cool place while we do our thing and tell everybody about it, it'd be cool. Get a hold of us. Let's see. Still looking for the TNT Off the Rail interview challenge. Don't forget, I missed out on my opportunities because I did so poorly at the 2 interviews I went to or 2 tournaments I went to this weekend that I was not around to do interviews with the amazing winners. Again, had a ton of fun. Next week, I'll have that video for you guys. You can check out pictures and a couple little videos I shot while I was out in Savannah. You can check that out in there it is, TNT Off the Rails show. There, right there. I'm getting better at that. Go check that out. The group on Facebook, and of course, it's they're on the TNT page as well. We'll be announcing the Third Stop tournament soon. I was hoping it was going to be here in the first 2 weeks of June. Things didn't work out, so they will be coming up soon. And got a few other things I'm going to have a little more next week. We're going to talk some more about the Bar Box Classic that went on over the weekend. Some pretty cool action went down that way. You got to see a lot of it on the stream. I know you can go check out more of it. Trying to think what else I might have forgot. Hans, I missed you. I don't understand what buy crayons mean, but I've missed you in the chat. So it's been amazing. Mr. Schneider, by the way, how you doing, buddy? I know that was a lot of talking, a lot of numbers, and I'm sorry. You'll be okay though. It'll be all right. Hopefully you're playing night. And TNT Fight Nights are coming back. You guys heard me talking about it. We are going to do it. They are going to be done a little differently. Some of them are going to be, we're going to do it, but it's going to be a little different than they used to be. If you are interested in setting up a match with someone or just anyone, or have a match in general or in mind already, get a hold of us and we'll do something about getting that match set up for you. I have my, I got you, Hans. I'm slow like that. So trying to think, we're gonna definitely be getting back into the fight nights for sure. Don't forget to stop by TNT page and share some flyers of your tournaments. I've been getting out and about, and I'd love to come visit you and check them out. So stop by TNT page and drop me a flyer, share a flyer for your upcoming tournaments, so we can share them and maybe possibly even swing by. One last one real quick before I get out of here. Come visit us at 3900 East Lincoln Way in Sterling, Illinois. Our Fresh salad bar, single topping and signature pizzas, the country's best chicken, sides, desserts, and more, all available on the buffet from 11 to 8 p.m. and for delivery. Fun Zone, carry out and delivery all available till 9. Go to pizzaranch.com to see our buffet, carry out and delivery hours, along with our delivery and carry out menu deals, and get your order started right there online. We look forward to seeing you. Pizza Ranch, 3900 East Lincoln Way, Sterling, Illinois, 815 716 8599. Kids eat for free on Tuesdays, just in case you're wondering. Just thought I'd put that out there. Go get some. Stuff the kids with some pizza for free on Tuesdays. Tell them TNT sent you. Um, uh, Looking around for my other papers, see what else I had. I have talked your ears off. I appreciate you guys hanging out. As always, don't forget every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central Time right here on the TNT YouTube and Facebook channel. TNT's Off the Rail with myself and Kaylee, bringing you everything we can possibly find in the limited views that we have of the pool world, including your stories. Don't forget to share them at TNT's Off the Rail Show group and TNT page. Use hashtag TNT Off the Rail, or if you just can't figure out any other way, just call me, 833 TNT Pool, and we'll figure it out together. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe, like and follow. Click on the bell to turn on your notifications, and check out your live notification options on Facebook so you don't miss a thing. Might have some stuff coming up for you this weekend. Might possibly. I'm not going to say what it is, but possible. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I've been Bud. I'm going to get out of here. Until next week, have fun, chalk it up, play some pool. Check out Slotto.app. Find your game, build your Fargo rate. Have some fun. Send us some pictures. Don't forget, operators and directors, we'd love to share your results and standings and stuff like that right here on our league scoreboard every week. And send that to us via Off the Rail Show group, or like I said, call me and I'll help you get to us. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week.